Hello. I'm having a hot cup of tea, green tea, and looking outside at this gorgeous March day. I think it's the 10th of March, and we're getting another snowstorm on Saturday. It's now Thursday. So yeah, getting prepared, enjoying the sun while it lasts here in Vermont, and knowing it's going to return in late spring and summer. Beautiful time in Vermont. So I want to take a moment and talk with you about my 10-week program that I offer women, mostly over 50 years old and beyond, who are trying to overcome a significant loss in life, sometimes multiple losses. And I created this, after I've gone through my own number of losses, which I share with you in this program. But I realized that after years and years of being in therapy myself, it was all very helpful. I always had some remarkable therapists to work with for the most part, and they saw me and heard me, and session after session after session, I made some progress, but it took a very, very long time. And honestly, when I got my MSW, I worked as a women's therapist, and I understood how long it takes sometimes to go through that healing process, whether it's from loss or past trauma in our lives, childhood issues that we just carry on with us into adulthood, and sometimes after we become parents, and on and on and on. There's a lot of grief that builds up. So I began to think, after I got my certification as a life coach, which was a couple of years ago, and I started to work more short term with individuals, and mostly women, I started to see the importance of real short term work. Not that you want to rush the grieving process, I'm not trying to say that. But on the other hand, sometimes what I saw happening, even within myself, when I went into my therapy sessions, something would happen that morning or the day before that would just upset me, or maybe I was confused, or I got into an argument, or something happened at work, or et cetera, et cetera. And I take it all into therapy with me. And then some of the deeper issues around loss in my life and things that happened to me in childhood too would get buried under that agenda that I was walking in with, that immediate agenda. I felt like the goals that I was setting for myself kind of got hijacked, and I was great at hijacking them too. So I then stepped away and said, okay, there's got to be another way to support women, because I could see and hear and feel deeply the way grief was holding women back. Whether it was a loss of a long-term partner, spouse, a parent, a sibling, a child, that you just feel like you can never recover from that. And it's not that you are going to ever forget those people. And also, just let me pause and say, we talk a lot about people who transition in our life and pass away, right? There's also a lot of loss and just incredible depression and sadness and regrets, all of that go with a divorce. I went through a divorce. I know that. And if you don't address it and really, really work at putting it in a certain place in your life so that you can move on, then it just keeps moving with you. I use the analogy in my work of baggage, taking a trip. You don't want to pack too much, right? So just take a light piece of baggage with you, not all that heavy stuff that you want to keep dragging into decade after decade, year after year, and new relationships in your life get all mucked over with the baggage too. One of the therapists that is a good friend and somebody I've worked with in the past used the analogy that I love, and I use it now with women, of crossing a bridge. Okay, so you make that crossover, you cross that bridge, and you cross over from a place of pain and suffering and grief to the other side. And what do you want to take with you to the other side? You don't want to carry all those heavy bags with you to the other side, and then just be burdened when you get to the other side. So you want to go in a free, uncomplicated state. And when grief does become complicated, then it really does need some direct attention. So after all of this, it occurred to me that what women need is a program that's more short-term, where we address certain issues associated with the grieving process. I don't know if you can hear my rooster. He's walking right outside the window now. I'm going to do a chicken film after this, so you can all see my chickens. I love them. Ballsy is walking right over there to our new females who are separated. So, I created this 10-week program. And I think 10 weeks is a reasonable amount of time to address the work and to cross that bridge. Cross that bridge and decide what you're going to take with you to the other side. And the way that I work is very different. And this is also something that's kind of hard to explain. I work with women around their narrative. Now let's just talk about narratives, because when you go into therapy, which I have nothing against therapy, let me say that, you are telling your story and you're telling it week after week, and you're being seen and you're being heard, and all of that is rich and rewarding and very powerful. When you write your narrative, it has a different effect on you. There's a very special therapeutic healing power to writing out your story, writing out your narrative. First of all, you're not going to be in my office doing it. You're going to be in the safety of your home. You can create a nice space wherever that is. You could be at a desk, you could be at a table, you could be in your bed, you could be anywhere. And I always tell women, don't just sit and try to write it out at one sitting, because you're going to forget things. You're going to want to go back to it. You can type it, you can handwrite it, you can print it, you can use crayons, any way you want to write your narrative. But what it does, it frees you, that written word and the way you put your story together. Without judgment too. Let me say that. Like you write your story in a very authentic place of who you are. And don't pause, don't overthink it, I shouldn't put this down, what will Kamari think? None of that. The more honest you are in your narrative, the deeper way that I can see you and support you. Because when you write that narrative from the very first chapter, the very first module, as I call it, in this program, you send it to me. You may have some doubts about that. I'm a perfect stranger, but you send it to me. And I will see you. I will see inside your soul. I will, because I'm going to take my time reading it. I'm going to read it 3, 4, 5 times, and then I'm going to write a letter back to you. And I think from what I can hear from my clients, they feel fully seen in the way that I can mirror back to them what I'm hearing, okay, and what I'm reading in their narrative. It's a really powerful process that we go through in this whole program, back and forth. You send me work, a lot of it's written, but then we also get into some visual components too, creating a collage, creating a mind map, okay, and some other things that we're going to do. And with each product that you send me, each creation, your honesty and your willingness to be vulnerable in this process will help you cross that bridge. It will help you get to the other side with much less baggage, much less. Are you going to forget about the loss? Are you going to forget about past traumas? You're going to forget about people who have hurt you? You're not going to forget, no. But it's going to hold a different place for you in your life. And you're going to feel this enormous sense of freedom. You know, I talk about it as this passage, okay, this crossing over that you do. And ultimately, on the other side, what you're doing is creating that meaning and purpose in life, that map, M-A-P, meaning and purpose in life again. I'm sure you've had it before. But, you know, when we suffer these horrible losses of, you know, maybe people that we cared about, or oh gosh, transitions that we've had to make that we don't want to make, you know, losing a job or losing a home, having to move, all these huge things in our life, we have to rely on our inner strength, coping mechanisms that are hopefully healthy, and sometimes they're not, and recognizing the things that have supported us and helped us persevere in the past. Sometimes those things get forgotten in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of grief that's strangling us. You know, we forget that, oh gosh, look what I did when I was 30. Look what I did at 45 when this happened. So being able, again, to write your narrative, tell your story, is this amazing awakening for you and for me as I bring back to you what you give me, okay? I will call you out on certain things if I'm seeing certain patterns. Of what I see a lot, honestly, in women is that, you know, they've taken care of people that they love dearly in their life, and then they've lost that person, or something has happened to separate them, whatever it might be. And the thing that they haven't paid attention to is their own health and well-being, their own self-care. So it's a big piece of this 10-week program too, is helping you find those routines, patterns, self-care in your life. I do a lot with yoga, a lot with the chakra system and the breath and meditation, mindfulness, intentional ways that you can bring a peace and a calmness to your life as you move forward, as you get on the other side of that bridge, you know, and you develop it as you're crossing over too. Every single one of the modules over those 10 weeks has self-care in it. And a lot of other juicy stuff. There's videos and there's readings, lots of resources that I'm always adding to. You know, I find something else in my research and it's like, oh, this is perfect for this chapter on vulnerability. We look at Brene Brown's work. We look at Carolyn Myss, the medical mystic. All of these important individuals that their work, their research, their writing can form this context for your healing. And I bring it all together in a short-term program. You're not going to be with me forever, although I will say during those 10 weeks, we definitely have at least 5 one-on-one sessions. Generally every other week we meet just one-on-one on a virtual meeting, can be on the phone, whatever you want. And also, in the opposite weeks, I have a group, and the women can come together if you choose. Now, some women feel a little intimidated by that, like, oh, I don't want to join a group, a virtual group too. I highly recommend it, because as you'll find out, the 3 components of this program that are necessary for you to cross that bridge are self-care, very important, connection, and that's connection with who you are, your spiritual self, your emotional self, being able to express those parts of yourself that maybe you've hidden away for so long, or you've forgotten about. Connection, and then community. And the community is what this group of women is about too. And guess what? When you're done with those 10 weeks, you're on the other side of the bridge, you still come back. You can join us indefinitely for those community groups. And it's really quite magical too to see how women are transformed in this process, and they come back to support other women who are just starting out. That's what's amazing about it all. And of course, you have access to all this entire program indefinitely too. So when I update things and I put in new material to look at and read, or new videos, you can go back and review everything. So I just wanted to talk about that program. It's very unusual. I mean, when you suffer loss in your life, people do recommend grief groups, which is not a bad thing either. They recommend, going for therapy, which is fine. All of these very traditional means of healing, which might work perfectly well for you. But again, what I'm seeing is that women get stuck. People do get stuck. And those 5 stages of grieving that we know about, people get stuck at the end, right there between depression, acceptance, They wake up one day, oh yeah, I think everything's going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. And the next day they can't get out of bed because they're crying so hard. So, that's what we want to try to break through, that complicated grief, okay, that you kind of get stuck with. I really believe in this program. I love working with the women. I learn a lot. I feel like each woman has their own radiance that they bring to this passage. And I guarantee if you show up and you do the work over these 10 weeks, you will cross over. And you will not forget whoever it was that you lost, or whatever happened to you. It won't go away, but it will hold a different place in your life that won't hold you back. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you have a nice cup of green tea, black tea, raspberry tea. And I think I am going to put my muck boots on and go outside in the sun and play with my chickens. All right. Take care of yourself. I love you all. Have a beautiful day.